Well, Jake Paul's attorney says he was out of state and not at his Calabasas home during that raid today. The FBI says they're investigating allegations of criminal acts. Today, YouTube star Jake Paul is making headlines after an FBI raid at his home in Calabasas. Sky 5 was over the scene Wednesday morning as federal agents entered Paul's home in a gated community off Mulholland Highway. 24 feds, some in tactical gear, could be seen carrying evidence from the property, including several firearms. After the search, a SWAT team was seen leaving in a procession of law enforcement vehicles.
When Jake Paul made those steroid jokes, it didn't matter if he was being serious or not. The timing couldn't have been worse. Here's someone already under a microscope cracking jokes about the exact thing people are suspicious of. That's not how innocent people usually behave. That's how someone acts when they're either completely tone deaf or they think they're untouchable. And when you dig into his testing history with organizations like VADA, these isolated incidents start forming a pattern that no amount of damage control can make disappear.
At any point, did you start to take your foot off the gas just a little bit because you noticed he was tiring out?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely a bit. You know, I wanted to give the fans a show, but I didn't want to hurt someone that didn't need to be hurt.
Did you carry Mike?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. Yeah, like there was a point where, you know, I was just like, okay, he's not really engaging back. And so I don't know if he's tired or whatever. And I could just tell, you know, his age was showing a little bit. And I just have so much respect for him. And that like violence war thing between us, like after he slapped me, I wanted to, you know, be aggressive and take him down and knock him out and all that stuff. But that kind of went away as the rounds went on.
Here's what really changed everything after that Joshua beating. It wasn't just that Jake lost a fight. People stopped treating this like entertainment and started treating it like a mystery to solve. Fans became forensic analysts, breaking down every frame, cross-referencing timelines, asking questions nobody was asking before. When your audience transforms from cheerleaders into detectives, you've got a serious problem. Then those Calabasas raid images hit the internet. Federal agents carrying boxes out of a mansion burns itself into people's minds in ways that no charity work or motivational Instagram post can ever undo.
Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson was 100% scripted. Mike Tyson repeatedly bit his boxing glove throughout the fight. When fights are scripted, fighters do weird gestures to signal that they're hurt. It's very possible Mike Tyson was biting on his glove to tell Jake Paul to calm down. Now, if that's not enough proof that this fight was scripted, in the middle of the fight, Mike Tyson is literally talking to Jake Paul while they are clinching.
The speed of this collapse has been absolutely wild to watch. We went from influencer boxing matches to heavyweight reality checks to federal investigations in what feels like months. It makes you wonder who actually believed that momentum could protect them forever. History is littered with people who thought their brand made them bulletproof, right up until reality came knocking. Joshua walked away from all this with his reputation stronger than ever. His old-school professionalism just highlighted how manufactured everything else felt. Meanwhile, Jake finds himself in the worst possible position for someone who built their entire identity on proving haters wrong. Now those haters are everywhere, and their questions are getting louder.
That's definitely a crazy fight because of the weight differences. The weight difference in there, I only know one man that'll do the weight difference like that, and that's the Bronze Bomber. You know, for me, in my opinion, I think it's scripted a little bit because, you know, of the weight difference, and, you know, Joshua is a former, you know, champion. And also, you know, he's current, he's active, you know, and this is going to be the first time that we see Paul, you know, fighting an active fighter. You know what I mean? We seen the Mike Tyson, that was all fun, that was cute, you know what I'm saying? It's fun and games and stuff, but now you're dealing with a real professional, you know, and so
Whether Jake comes out of this stronger or completely crashes depends entirely on how he handles what's coming next, and something is definitely coming. Joshua didn't just outbox Jake Paul that night, he dismantled an entire carefully constructed image by simply being a real professional heavyweight who knew his job. Joshua didn't talk trash or chase social media moments. He just showed up, did what elite fighters do, and left behind footage that made months of hype look completely hollow.
Discussion, any agreement about, hey, you need to get the fight into this round, you need to carry him for X amount of rounds, you need to do your part to get it into the 5th, 6th, or whatever?
Absolutely no way ever. I mean, if you look at a couple of the right hands that AJ missed with in the first couple of rounds, like they would have done the same job on Jake's jaw if they would have landed. And Jake did very well to avoid them. So I always said going into the fight, AJ's not the kind of guy that's going to come out like a train, just start swinging away. He's going to take his time. And that's what he did. You know, the fight definitely went a few more rounds than anticipated from Anthony. But it's like, even now, it's like, yeah, it was definitely a fix. Some guy commented today on one of my posts, yeah, it was definitely a fix. I go, you do know that he's broken his jaw in 2 places. Like
Jake's whole boxing experiment was built on controlling every variable: hand-picked opponents, perfect timing, managed messaging, predictable outcomes. When Anthony Joshua applied real pressure for real rounds, that control evaporated in real time. You could see the brand wobbling with each round that passed. But here's where things get really serious. When federal investigators start looking at patterns, money trails, and coordination in combat sports, we're not talking about YouTube drama anymore. We're talking about potential criminal activity involving gambling, betting markets, and international monies.
California mansion has been raided by the FBI. Multiple news organizations report. You can see in this aerial footage agents in uniform outside his home in Calabasas. Attorney told Reuters he would cooperate with the federal investigation.
What's gonna look like after his boxing career?
People think I do steroids and all this shit, so I have a plan because I think it's fucking bizarre. That's like the only excuse they can come up with is like rigged fights. Jake Paul does steroids. So after boxing, I'm gonna do a cycle of steroids to show people what Jake Paul on steroids actually looks like, because I want to shut people the fuck up.
Logan's sudden shift to careful silence tells you everything you need to know. This is someone who understands media cycles better than almost anyone. And when people like that go quiet, it's because they see problems they can't talk their way out of. Mike Tyson's behavior throughout this whole situation has genuinely disturbed longtime boxing fans. When a legend starts acting in ways that feel completely off-brand, people instinctively start rewinding footage and asking uncomfortable questions.
There has never once in Jake Paul's career been any talk of that sort, of anything to do with the fight being anything but a real fight that has exactly the same situation as any professional fight. And that's exactly the same thing here for the Anthony Joshua fight. It's just beyond mind-blowing that people would think that. Anthony Joshua was on record saying that if he didn't finish him in the first round, that would be disappointing, that it would be a failure. The narrative changed as we got closer to fight night and obviously post-fight, and I understand why, but they were pretty adamant it would take max 2 rounds to knock out Jake Paul.
Eddie Hearn's defensive responses have been fascinating to watch because this is someone who's usually comfortable operating in boxing's gray areas. But his explanations sound less like dismissing nonsense and more like preparing for scrutiny that's already headed his way. When promoters start acknowledging hypothetical investigations, that's when you know the temperature has changed. Those leaked Tyson script details keep circulating because real conspiracies are never perfectly clean. They're messy, partially coordinated, and when enough messy details line up, it stops feeling like fan conspiracy theories and starts feeling like someone's rough working notes.
Let me know your thoughts on Jake going 6 rounds with AJ.
You know, the fact that he did that, it was good because, you know, we didn't think it was going to go 6 rounds. We thought it was going to go 2. So the fact that he made 6 rounds is an accomplishment for Jake Paul.
Was there anything that stuck out with you from the fight?
Yeah, really, who was in better shape? I thought that Joshua was in great shape compared to, you know, Jake Paul because he was running around the ring.
The physical toll was obvious by the later rounds. When you're not used to that level of sustained pressure, your body breaks down fast. Paulie Melangi's analysis hit different because it didn't sound personal or bitter. It sounded like a veteran finally seeing public opinion catch up to conversations fighters have been having privately for years. Miko Sabadarian's media appearances backfired completely because constantly mentioning boxing's history of corruption while claiming total innocence doesn't build confidence. It reminds everyone how thin the line is between entertainment and manipulation in a sport that's burned fans before. What we're really examining here isn't guilt or innocence, but perception, pressure, and consequences in real time. In celebrity boxing culture, reputations get destroyed long before any official verdicts come down. Jake Paul is now living in that dangerous space between accusation and resolution. Anthony Joshua represents something Jake's generation doesn't fully understand yet. Old school professionalism, where preparation, legitimate risk, and long-term legacy matter more than viral moments. When that standard directly confronts influencer-era boxing, the contrast becomes impossible to ignore. Jake didn't just lose control in that ring, he lost control of the entire conversation surrounding him. Once public dialogue slips outside your grip and journalists, fighters, and analysts all start asking similar questions, charisma alone won't steer things back in your direction. Eddie Hearn's cautious approach feels less like distancing himself and more like recognizing that the environment has fundamentally changed and the usual promotional tactics won't work anymore. Logan's strategic silence makes complete sense because sometimes saying nothing preserves your options, and when the future looks uncertain, keeping your options open becomes more valuable than loyalty statements or quick defensive moves. Mike Tyson's involvement continues bothering fans because legends occupy sacred space in boxing culture. When that space feels compromised, people don't just question the immediate situation, they question everything connected to it, including who benefits and who stays protected. Paulie's calm, measured criticism cuts through all the noise because he gains nothing from exaggerating the situation. When someone like him speaks matter-of-factly instead of emotionally, it suggests this isn't about personal grudges, it's about systematic problems that make him genuinely uncomfortable. Mako's repeated references to boxing's corrupt history almost work against his own message because reminding people that corruption exists doesn't prove it's absent now. It just reminds everyone why being skeptical is completely rational. Jake's trademark confidence, which used to feel magnetic, now feels potentially reckless because confidence without transparency can look like deliberate avoidance. Right now, audiences want honest answers more than entertaining bravado. Once fans started suspecting that money flows might influence fight outcomes, pure entertainment transformed into ethical concerns. And ethical concerns invite the kind of outside scrutiny that no promoter can fully contain or control. Joshua's straightforward professionalism acts like a mirror, showing what genuine discipline looks like when nothing needs to be manufactured or managed. That reflection changes how audiences evaluate everyone else involved in this mess. It's remarkable how quickly fans learn to analyze footage frame by frame, study body language, and cross-reference public statements. Once people feel like they've been fooled, they become natural-born investigators. Those Calabasas raid images stick in public memory not because of their legal significance, but because visuals communicate faster than facts. Once that story enters collective consciousness, it becomes part of the narrative, whether anyone involved likes it or not. Jake built his brand on disruption, but disruption without underlying trust eventually collapses under its own noise. Rebuilding trust is infinitely harder than building initial attention. Jake's got resilience, but resilience alone won't fix credibility issues, and credibility is the exact currency being questioned across every platform right now. Joshua doesn't need to comment on any of this because his career doesn't depend on controlling narratives. That fundamental difference matters more than any individual punch thrown. Boxing as a sport feels genuinely uneasy watching this situation develop, because every controversy reinforces the sport's oldest wounds, and legitimate fighters end up paying reputational costs for someone else's spectacle. The uncomfortable reality is that influencer boxing blurred traditional lines too successfully, and now those blurred lines are being examined under harsh investigative light that doesn't care about entertainment value or social media metrics. The ongoing silence from key figures feels more significant each day because silence usually indicates preparation rather than ignorance. Preparation suggests they're anticipating what comes next rather than feeling confident that nothing will happen. This doesn't feel like an ending to me. It feels like a forced intermission where careers either mature under pressure or completely unravel depending on how honestly they respond to legitimate scrutiny. Jake Paul's next chapter won't be determined by Anthony Joshua, Mike Tyson, Logan Paul, or Eddie Hearn. It'll be determined by whether he can confront widespread skepticism with genuine substance instead of manufactured spectacle. Once trust gets broken, only consistent reality can rebuild it.